Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 film Haunt season, and I'm going to tell you right now, as far as low-budget independent horror films go, this is a pretty solid one. I would definitely recommend giving this one a go, especially because I rented it through Fandango at home for $5.29 with tax, so it's pretty cheap in my opinion, especially if you're going to have a decent time with it. But know what you're getting into. It's very low-budget independent film. But I had a pretty good time with it. So this one's written and directed by Jake Jarvi, who also did The Girl and The Platoon of Power Squadron, which is a very interesting title. Kind of makes me want to watch that one. So quick synopsis of this film. It's basically about a haunt around Halloween, which for people who aren't familiar with the jargon, it's a haunted house. You know, it's one of those independently run haunted houses where every year they're trying to do the best they can to make it look scary and scare people with their actors. And it's about kind of the behind the scenes stuff of how people are getting along behind the scenes. But then also there's a killer that ends up showing up. So this is a slasher because it's this whole thing of who is the killer who's going around actually killing some of these crew members who are involved with this haunt. And then also maybe a little bit further with the kills. But that's kind of the setup for it. So if you're into low budget independent slashers, check that out. And just low budget independent horror in general, check it out. Anyway, the opening sequence is real low budget horror fun, which gets you excited. The opening sequence with, you know, the credits and everything, it screams low budget. It screams like kind of hokey, kind of cheesy. And I feel like a lot of the times they kind of lean into that, which I think works to their advantage because you don't want to take yourself too seriously with super low budget independent horror films because yeah, you know, this isn't a big budget, you know, big screen production. We know that. So if you lean more into the like, yeah, we know what we're doing here, what we're working with, it definitely helps with the product on the screen. The line deliveries do feel rushed in this, and the acting overall is just serviceable. Now, that said, that's kind of what I expect from these types of films. I never expect for there to be outstanding performances. Sometimes you do end up getting that. And with this one, when I say, you know, the acting is serviceable, there is a range within there. I'm talking about overall it's serviceable. There are some people who do a lot worse, and there are some people who do actually pretty solid. A pretty solid job. And yeah, so it's kind of, you know, it's all over the place. But one of the big issues early on, especially, is the line delivery is so quick that it just feels like it's rehearsed lines. It doesn't feel like it's actual natural dialogue that these people are delivering. And that's not about how the dialogue is written, that's just about the performance, how it's delivered. So, yeah. So that's one of the negatives. The behind the scenes of a haunt is a pretty fun idea, plus all the costumes you end up seeing. I love that aspect of this film because it's not something that actually gets shown a whole lot in movies. The whole like behind the scenes of a haunted house and people just kind of like getting ready for the haunt and just talking and like getting excited about it, putting their costumes on, actually seeing people having the makeup applied and everything, and setting up the scenes that they have in the haunted house. So I love that aspect of it. It's just fun to me. And being someone who, you know, obviously Halloween is my favorite holiday, it's just, and, you know, it takes me back to Halloween. And I'm just thinking that when I'm recording this, we're past Halloween, and watching this movie just made me like, oh, I want to go back. I so want to go back. So they did a really good job of capturing the feel of Halloween time. So love that about it. It doesn't take long for the first person to get slashed. So that's great. It's always good when these types of low budget films get right into it and let you know what they're trying to do here. Also keeping it light and fun like they do. I love the lighting choices in this. Lots of interesting, fun coloration with their lighting, and that's just something that I love in any film. You don't get it a ton, but with this one, I felt like they were just like, let's just have a good time with the lighting. Let's put some fun colors here and fun colors here, and I appreciate that. From an aesthetic point of view, I love that type of stuff, so big thumbs up on that one. The killer ends up changing outfits and looks, so I appreciate that aspect of it. It's not just like one look they're trying to make kind of iconic, but I will say that Some of the costumes look a lot better than other ones. Like some of them just kind of stupid and simplistic, but other ones are actually a lot more cool. So maybe just stick with the ones that were a lot more cool looking and just, have less costume changes. I would have preferred that, but it's still fine the way it is because you get to see a bunch of different costumes with the killer. And then it's also that situation of, what are they going to be dressed as? Like, is that person the killer who's in a costume, or is it that person who's a killer in the costume? So it sets that up as well. There are some pretty interestingly shot scenes, which is great. There's one in particular in a arcade with a lot of movement following characters, and it was done in a very agile way. And big ups to the cameraman or camera woman for doing that. They did a great job. There's a lot of talk about sexual things in a way that feels like it really clashes with the actual story and the setting of this film. This is one of the biggest problems with the movie. They just put in so much talk about like people doing like OnlyFans and like people's kinks and fetishes and stuff like that. And like I don't have a problem with that being in a film, but it's if it makes sense to be in the film and if it's actually like part of the story, and it's not. But there's so much talk about it. It's just like all these characters are so focused on that when it adds nothing to the story or the film, but actually detracts from it because you're like, this is kind of odd why they'd be pushing this so hard. So that goes back to the script not being great. Great ideas here, and there's some pretty well written dialogue, but there's some bad ideas as far as what that dialogue is, and they just waste so much time talking about these sexual tangent things where you're just like, why are we doing this? This isn't significant at all. The kills aren't bad. You think low budget independent horror, a lot of times the kills can be very lackluster, but they're not bad. They did a solid enough job. There's a decent amount of blood to it. I enjoyed the kills for the most part. There is some solid humor that I actually ended up enjoying in this. A few times I actually did chuckle to myself, and that's not common. So when they hit the humor points, they did a pretty good job for the most part. As it goes on, it starts to feel kind of aimless, unfortunately. That's one of the biggest problems is, like I was saying, there's a really good concept here with the script. And they start really strong, and then it feels like as it keeps going, it starts to devolve into being a little bit like meandering, not knowing where they're going, talking too much about the OnlyFans and sexual stuff, and it's just like lost. And then just like the killers kind of popping up every now and then, but you feel like you're just kind of going off on all these little like side tangents that have nothing to do with the actual overall story or anything to do with actually like developing characters or anything like that. So you're just kind of like, okay, we're over here, we're just kind of floating in nothingness, and then all of a sudden you get to the end of the film and you're like, oh, okay, we're back where we kind of were in the beginning, and this is the good stuff. This is what we're here for. So it finishes strong. It's just all the stuff in the middle is kind of weird, aimless, like I said. And like I said, the ending is decent. It's not a great ending, but it's not a bad ending at all. It's a pretty solid, decent ending, and I enjoyed it for the most part. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving this one a solid 3-star rating. I thought about 2.5 for a little bit because of all the issues that they have with this film, but overall, I did like it. So I'm not in the middle on it. I'm not like, I could go either way. I actually liked it. So three stars for this one. I'd say check it out. So everyone, if you have seen it, go ahead and put comments down here, and we can talk spoilers if you want to in the comments. Hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Would appreciate that. If you want to pitch in a little bit monetarily for a very nominal fee monthly, I have subscriptions. There's a link in the description for the subscriptions. Thumbs up on the video really helps with that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos to check them out, you can hit that notification bell button. So regardless, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And until next time, keep it brutal.